Hej och välkomna till Beyond Tomorrow. I dagens avsnitt får vi höra ett samtal som spelades in live på Scanautomatic och processteknikmässorna i Göteborg under oktober 2024. Du kan lyssna på fler avsnitt från mässan på poddkanalen Beyond Tomorrow Process och automation.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Tomorrow at Scanautomatic and Processteknik 2024. My name is Robert Velén and I'm a specialist consultant at Plant Vision with a long career mainly within engineering and partly in maintenance. In this episode we will be focusing on cloud versus on-premises, which is a very hot topic, and for this episode I'm joined by Mohamed Al Kadari, who is President Global Business Development at IFM. Welcome, Mohamed.
Thank you, Robert, for having me. Hello, everyone.
Can you start by briefly talk a little bit about yourself, your role at the company, your background, and so on?
Sure, happy to do so. So, my name is Mohamed. I'm from Germany, a lovely Frankfurt, and here in Gothenburg to join my colleagues at the fair. My role is being the vice president at IFM for our IIoT business, so basically responsible for the business development of our IoT solutions. And I joined IFM, which is a German sensor company for those who are not familiar, 1.5 years ago. And before that, I was 8 years with Google, more specifically with Google Cloud in the discrete manufacturing business.
Very good, and that seems like you're a very good expert on cloud-related stuff then with 8 years at Google.
I hope so, yeah.
So my guess is that for most people cloud still feels quite new. And maybe a little bit insecure because you don't really know where your data is stored and who will get access to it. But can you elaborate a little bit about and taking some of the edges of this discussion?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of misconception when people think about cloud because it's a buzzword that predominantly in continental Europe has a little bit of a negative notion, especially when it comes to the B2B world. Whereas in a consumer world, we unconsciously use cloud computing or cloud platforms day in, day out. So if everyone just takes a look on their phone, all the apps that we are using, Spotify, Netflix, and all other software as a services platforms, they are all running on cloud infrastructures. Same as your phones, who are not storing your pictures anymore physically on a hard drive, but they also stored in the cloud. And guess what? On the cloud, they are running also AI features that, for instance, organize your albums and put them together in folders matched to your loved ones. So face recognition, for instance, is also to some extent cloud-based because the AI runs on the cloud. So I guess there's a lot of misconception about where cloud actually already takes place in our everyday life. And so it also takes place already in an industrial environment, in a B2B environment. And so more and more it takes over traditional local installations that companies are using in their local service. And the tendency is more and more to use cloud services as well in company.
Yes, and it's a bit mixed messages because some companies we talk to, they say we would never use cloud. At the same time, they are obviously, as anyone else, using Microsoft's Office suite where everything is stored in the cloud.
Yes.
So I would say most companies actually already use the cloud, whether they are aware that it's a cloud or not. Would you agree on this?
I absolutely agree, because most of the time you're having actually a Teams meeting with that person that's telling you if we are not running cloud. And the team service of Microsoft is also running on Microsoft Azure. Or if they use Salesforce, which I'm sure most of customers actually use as a CRM, or they use SAP as an ERP system, they are all cloud-based solutions. Now, there is variances when we talk about what is going to be run on the cloud, because we have to distinguish about what's the source of the data. Are we talking about a critical asset of data? And also, are we talking about certain companies who maybe have the capability and also the infrastructure to run certain servers in a secured and high performance local installation, compared to a service they could maybe use on a cloud-based solution where they use an infrastructure, for instance, from Google, from Microsoft, or from Amazon, which is a highly secured infrastructure environment that also offers on top of that high performance compute power to run whatever you want to do on a decentralized server and just push the information back into your local instances. And I think this is where the misconception comes about what kind of data am I willing to leave out of the company, being processed somewhere else, and then being pushed back into the company. And this is where the misconception comes in, and the fear of, for instance, cybersecurity attacks, because the feeling is that as long as I can control it, I have the tendency to have it under my pillow, right? It's the same analogy that I use with customers about where are you willing to store your own money? Would you will to put it all under your bed, under your pillow, or are you willing to give whatever is worth to you to someone who's professional and can provide the infrastructure at a bank and probably put it in a safe environment and manage that for you?
That's a very good analogy, because it's very true. And how about this? I think it's the English name for this new directive, NIS2.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where sensitive businesses for society are supposed to protect their data. Can those businesses also use cloud services, or are they forced to use on-premises solutions, would you say?
Absolutely. They're not forced to use any of both, but what they are forced to do is to think about how to safely manage their data. And most of the time, companies, they don't have a strategy about how do they manage their data securely. So that's I'm really in favor of this regulation. And by the way, companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, they know these regulations for years, and they've been already designed their processes in a way that they're complying with that. So just to give an example, a data center that is located in Europe has to comply with any sort of regulations, also the GDPR regulations. And they are so remotely saved your data that you would need multiple keys to access one data point. And it's not, the illusion is that you can physically go to a data center and take out a rack, and then you have all the data that is saved for a certain consumer or for a certain company. But this is not the case. They are scattered through various different locations, and you will need multiple keys to reconstruct them, and this is basically impossible to do. Whereas if you running anything on a local server and you have connected it somehow to the internet, now you have an open door. So you can have the best secured on-premise installation and local service, but as soon as you have a gateway to the internet, now you have a potential breach that is open. And just in the recent months, there has been several cyber attacks on, I can speak for German companies at least, that have been attacked with local service. And the only data that was securely saved and could be managed was everything that was running on a cloud service. So that's also in terms of safe backups that are saved in a cloud. So at the end, I believe the discussion shouldn't go into cloud or on-premise. It's always about what is the best benefit for a certain company. They are companies who have the experience and the expertise to run local servers safely, and some probably who are not, and their cloud services can help them to comply with, for instance, the new regulations.
Yeah, I never actually thought about what you said there, that when you use these big suppliers, you automatically fulfill all the regulations at the same time, because they must be compliant. That's actually a very mind-blowing thought, for me at least. So.
Yeah, again, if you go into nuances here, then let's say from the infrastructure point of view, I would say 100% yes. But let's take, for instance, the example of Spotify, right? And they would use any hyperscaler cloud provider. So let's say they push their information to Google Cloud, right? So Google Cloud is then responsible for managing the infrastructure. But managing the application itself that runs in the infrastructure, that's in the responsibility of Spotify. So they have to also make sure that they design whatever they do on the application that runs in the cloud, that no user can access someone else's information on that application. So even customers who are running their software as a service in a cloud environment, they still have a lot of responsibility to make sure that they comply on the application level in the cloud with GDPR regulations, for instance. So, however, I agree with you that all the tools are available, right? So these kind of companies, they still offer then additional tools for you to make sure that you comply with all of the regulations, for instance, or to make it as secure as possible. But indeed, you go with a safer bet actually running services in the cloud because of the scalability as well. So running services in a local server always puts you into the position of the IT that they will have to plan for the maximum capacity, because you don't want to run into a situation where your servers are out of capacity and you cannot serve your customers, cannot serve your own production, for instance. And on cloud services, basically, you can scale up and scale down as much as you want because you're basically using shared services in a public cloud. So that's maybe the main differences here.
Yeah, and the scaling part is obviously one of the huge benefits of cloud solutions. We are at a fair that is focusing on automation and process technology, and IFM are supplying instrumentation, you can say, that are outside in a lot of production plants. Does that kind of instrumentation sort of out of the box can connect to the cloud services out there, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So IFM produces basically sensors in position and process and for instance network control as well. But let's stay for the example of the process industries. So our portfolio offers customers an end-to-end solutions, from connecting data from plant floor to transforming data to information, and then all the way up to getting actionable insights from that. So to connect the data, first of all, you would need the right instrumentation. That could be sensors, network cabling, and so on. By design, these sensors will offer you to do both. So you can take the information and run it straight, for instance, into your controllers, into your PLCs, and you all run with them locally. But for instance, technologies like IO-Link offer you also the opportunity to take the data straight from its data source and via an IoT port use, for instance, connectors like MQTT and OPC-UA and push it into any third-party system that could also run in a cloud. And that's basically the biggest requirement that we get from our customers, is connectivity and interoperability. So all the data needs to be accessed ideally at its source, and then ideally pre-processed on the edge level, because you want to avoid having expensive server costs because of storage, and same in the cloud, but then push the relevant data or information, pre-processed information, into your relevant systems that can run cloud or on-premise.
Okay, I think you answered my question very good there. I think we are going to the end of this podcast. It has been super interesting to listen to you, and at least I have learned a lot of new stuff here.
Thank you, Robert.
Do you have anything else that we have not touched that you want to end with before we leave the podcast?
I guess I just want to say thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to learn more about other companies, how they, for instance, tap into the new areas of cloud and AI technology.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all our listeners. I hope you have gained some useful insights and inspiration to help you on your digitalization journey within process and automation.